Hey everybody, so my name's Logan. I've shared my story in a few different videos on YouTube, but the gist of it is I was a role model child, Jehovah's Witness, born into a regular pioneer, on assembly stages, all of these things. I was an only child, my parents were so proud, baptized at 12 years old, and was since disowned around the time I turned 18, for dating somebody outside of the religion because I had a strong lack of love and meaning in my life, and I felt like nobody fully understood me. So I went looking for it elsewhere, and although that ended almost immediately, as soon as I was disfellowshipped, since then I've done my research, and I'm a very curious person at heart, and I didn't want to hold myself back because so many people learn one thing and they stick to it for life, and that is not the kind of person that I am. I feel like you should be able, as a human with free will, to explore all of your options and opportunities and pick the best thing, and I was never given that opportunity. So I took my time and did my research, and what I personally found, even with this religion that I loved and it was all that I knew growing up, that's all I ever had. I was homeschooled and never left home. I pioneered, I went out, I did service. Let's say all of my friends were in it, if any. It was a very lonely life, honestly. And my teenage years as a witness were the darkest times of my life. But you have to step outside the box to see what the box is made of. And I lost my family, I lost everything I knew and loved, but I choose to stay away. And my family, my friends, all would rather assume that I'm a selfish, no good pawn of Satan than somebody who's just looking for the truth. And the way I've been treated is proof, more than anything, that what they consider to be the truth is just another lie. And we used to joke that it was not a cult, and we didn't see why people saw us that way. So I'm gonna go a bit of willy-nilly here, and I've Googled the top 10 signs of a cult, right? And I pulled up the first result. So this is from verywellline.com, and I apologize for background noise, I'm on a patio. But this article says, how do you recognize a cult? There's 10 points. And I'm gonna read these with no real preparation here and share my thoughts on each and share some red flags, you could say, that I've found with Jehovah's Witnesses that really woke me up. And as a Jehovah's Witness, if there's any watching, you know that we talk about Babylon the Great or the world empire, false religion. And what I have seen shows me that although Jehovah's Witnesses are very well-meaning people and I love them, the organization as a whole has just as much corruption, lies, deceit, and misery as any other religion, and in fact, in some cases, more crime and corruption. They're just better at masquerading. It's a better facade. It's one of the best. They have all of their bases covered. You know, if you lose people because of COVID, you must have the truth. You must just be rooting out bad apples. If you gain new members, you must have the truth because you're getting new members. But COVID has really shaken everything up. I've personally met people who are questioning their beliefs now because things are falling apart and they're losing a lot of money, they're losing a lot of members, and things are not looking up for them. And if anybody's questioning anything right now, I want to share some things that were a bit of a shock to me. So, okay, after that long intro, let's see our first 10 points. Okay, the first major sign of a cult is abolute authoritarianism without accountability. authoritarianism. So authoritarianism. What is the definition of that? The enforcement or advocacy of strict obedience to authority at the expense of personal freedom. Does that sound familiar? The governing body say that they are messengers of God.
And do you see yourselves as Jehovah God's spokespeople on earth?
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to say that we are the only spokesperson that God is using.
Jameson's always popular.
Because of this, they are spending thousands of dollars daily and millions annually in court fees of innocent people's money because they refuse to cooperate with the law and put their members at risk. They always encourage us to cooperate with the law and say that God can use the law to put things in the right place, yet they refuse to cooperate. And even if you go into leaked documents used for elders and Bethelites, there are strategic, tactfully worded practices such as theocratic warfare that are used to hide the truth or give a blank stare or just avoid a topic that could put the organization at risk. And there are very deep documents given to only a very select few people that basically train them how to lie or not disclose information. Now, you could say that's not lying, but if you go to the definition of a lie is many things. It's giving false information or a deliberate intent to deceive. Deliberate intent to deceive. Conveying a false impression. To speak falsely or withhold truth knowingly. To convey a false impression. Many people would agree that withholding information is a form of a lie.
Now, does the governing body, or do the members of the governing body, do you see yourselves as modern-day disciples, the modern-day equivalent of Jesus' disciples?
We certainly hope to follow Jesus and be his disciples.
I hope so.
Mislead people, and they use their fear of death, they use their fear of never seeing their loved one again, they use all of this, they use your own family against you, they lose the fear of being kicked out against you to keep you as a slave. Point blank, truly. That's exactly what they do. It's psychological warfare, and it's one of the worst types to exist on this planet, is use everybody you love and know against you.
I've always had the attitude, if I go somewhere and my wife and family aren't welcome, then I'm not welcome. And if somebody tells me that I am to shun my wife and children, they can kiss my ass. And I don't care if it's a church or the government or a school or whoever it is, because I don't believe what label or brand you put on a religion. No God that I know, which is a loving God, is going to ask me as a man to turn my back on my wife and my children. And that's got nothing to do with religion. That's got to do with being a man. And I'm just asking you as a man, is there a point at which, because I've often said, I love the Lord, it's Christians I can't stand. Some of them can be really obnoxious. I mean, come on, don't you have some people in your faith that just like, oh, come on, shut up. Because I certainly do in mine. I'm just saying, forget about who they are. These are men. These are human beings. These are people that walk the earth, flesh and blood. This isn't God telling you to do this. This is somebody that's interpreting God. That's telling you to fail the test, because this is a test. Are you going to man up and stand by your wife and children, or are you going to let some guy that was born in Cleveland come tell you that you're supposed to turn your back on your wife and children, and you're going to say, oh, okay, somebody told me that, and then you just follow along and say, well, what do you want me to do now? I really have a problem with the common sense aspect of that.
Too open-minded and too truth-seeking to be that cowardly. And I believe my own parents are cowards for not even wanting to read, listen, research what they believe. Because how can you be so sure if you don't fact check? It's ridiculous. And my parents were raised in this too. And some people just say, move on with your life. Maybe this is a waste of time. And I have healed the trauma of losing everything that I knew. But I want justice. And I can't believe that they're still getting away with things like this. So, back to the wild videos and theories that cause people to be paranoid. We're having the bunker videos where the government's after Jehovah's Witnesses, etc., etc. And the reality of a government cracking down on religion, most governments are based off of religion. It just doesn't make any sense. There's too many religious people in the world, about more than half, or I believe close to half of the population of Earth. Let me fact check that. $5.8 billion people on Earth are religiously affiliated. The government's not going to ban religion. Plain and simple. No. A belief that former followers are always wrong for leaving, and that there is never a legitimate reason for anyone else to leave. This goes back to what I was saying about my own parents. They would rather assume that I'm delusional, held in the jaws of Satan, and a hedonist than believe that I could ever be onto something, even though they know that I'm incredibly intelligent and that they raised me this way and that they raised me to seek for the truth. And my parents were very intelligent people. And it just utterly shocks me how ignorant they can be. Now, former followers, a belief that former followers are always wrong for leaving. Bullshit. So many people are wrongfully kicked out, never to return. A quarter of people who are disfellowshipped attempt suicide, self-destruction. Many disfellowshippings result in suicide or serious trauma. Most people go on to do drugs, get therapy, and can never move on with their lives. I know people in their 30s that are alcoholics and cannot move on with their lives because of how they were treated and because there was so much love bombing when they were in it. And then the second they leave, they see the real world and they're terrified, they're petrified, they're traumatized. Most people never move on. I am so grateful to have the experiences that I've had and the knowledge that I have been able to move on, including a near-death experience that proved that a lot of their beliefs were wrong. Because the second, for years, decades even, there's always just something in the back of your head like, but what if they're right? What if they're right? And it just kills you because it's all you knew. For years it was drilled into, and it's an entire society. It is a cult. It is a bubble. And the second you leave it, you never, Jehovah's Witnesses are so altruistic. They do things for each other without even wanting credit, just for God or for other people. But the second you leave, you're treated like shit. Like, you're dead. You don't matter. And they view people in the world like that too, whether they're disfellowshipped or not. And there's nothing loving about that. You're encouraged not to get close to anybody unless you're teaching them your doctrine. They encourage you to be open-minded and fact-check, but don't read anything that could possibly be about our religion that's not from us. Stupid. It's hilarious to me now. Okay. So they're always wrong for leaving, and there's never a legitimate reason for anyone else to leave. No, there wouldn't be a legitimate reason. Not at all. You're not just questioning life. We have the truth. If you can't see it, you're stupid. If you can't see it, maybe you deserve to be treated like you're dead. Maybe we shouldn't have had a child. My parents always told me their biggest fear was raising somebody in the truth just for them to leave, and that's exactly what I did. I went from golden role model child to rebel. But as a person, I've learned more honesty and integrity and humility, and I've grown so much and have had so much more maturity than I think I ever would have had past 30 years old. I always joke that I'm 20 years old going on 30 because of the life experience I've had to have, and because of how I've had to learn how to move on from something as big as this. And I'm so grateful for it. And I've felt closer to God, or whatever the creator truly is, because I do believe there's a creator, than I ever did in my life. And it pains me to think that a lot of witnesses will never feel that. And I do believe personally that God picks out individual people across the world and keeps them under his wing, no matter what beliefs they have, and that they're gonna learn the truth once they're gone and out of their body and back to where we came from. But organizations that are so hypocritical and for profit, even if it's donations, it's still for profit, God doesn't support. There's no way he could. Not people who hide thousands of child abusers. Not people who hide from the law. Not people who drive children to kill themselves or attempt it because they feel they were not good enough. Which goes into the next point. Abusive members, child abuse, disfellowshipping, wrongful judgment. It's a very common theme. The amount of people that leave Jehovah's Witnesses are like Amazon's employee turnover rate. It's terrible. And most of those people never return for a reason. Now, records, books, articles, or programs documenting the abuses of the leaders or group. This is still just points about a cult, right? There's news everywhere. Look into the news. I'll post articles. Like, I don't need to go into anything apostate. I don't need to go into anything scriptural to tell you that there are serious problems, both in business, both with their taxes, with their budgeting, with their standing with the government, with their crime. There's dozens of court cases at all times against this religion. And they like to joke or brag that they win a number of them, when in reality they win less than 10%.
But within the congregation, ours is a spiritual protection. When we're talking about physical protection, that's up to the secular authorities to provide.
It states in paragraph 3, there is a time to keep quiet when your words should prove to be few. Do you see that?
Yes, sir.
You know, Mr. Joe,
object to that. It's a violation of the First Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom of association.
Right? Put everybody else around you first. What you want does not matter. That's Satan's thinking. You should not be selfish. Anything you want to do, no. Do what's best for God. Don't chase your career. Don't go to school. No. Don't think for yourself. Satan wants you to be independent and free thinking. Don't do that. Listen to us. That's their message that they drill into your heads. That's the message. Why? I never felt good enough. No matter if I got baptized, if I still struggled with sexual urges, being a teenage boy, if I didn't live up to my parents' expectations, if I didn't live up to the elders' expectations, there's always expectations put on you. And like I said, I've met people who didn't even live up to the expectation of being able to preach when they were 12 because they weren't sure yet. Disfellowshipped, gone. No sympathy, no remorse. And they turn to alcoholics. And they still question, was I wrong? Because those people treated me so well. It's one of the worst forms of psychological torment you can do to somebody. How would God support something like that? In fact, there's an Awake article, in case you haven't heard of this, there's an Awake article from the 50s where they call shunning a pagan practice that was introduced by the Catholics. And they always say the light grows brighter, but in fact, they switch between beliefs, they flip-flop every 10 years and just say the light's growing brighter and refuse to admit that they could ever be wrong. Do you see all the holes? There's just too many holes. This isn't just about have faith anymore. There is serious corruption and lies going on. And the governing body, these people, they have to be right. Yet, when questioned in court, they won't even admit that they're messengers of God. They won't even say it, yet they tell everybody else that they are. So the next point was, again, going along with what I'm saying, a belief that the leader is right at all times. The governing body makes absolutely sure that this message is coming from Jehovah, not them.
That, I think, would seem to be quite presumptuous to
keep you in, because if you're wrong, you wasted your life, you wasted your time, you wasted your youth, you wasted all the best years of your life, you didn't go to college, you didn't chase your career, you missed out on all of the connections you could have had outside of your religion, all the friends, all the relationships. You ignored or pushed away your family for years of your life that you'll never get back. That's why too many people are afraid to question it if they're given evidence that there's a lot of problems. And there are a lot of problems. My dad would say, son, nothing can be perfect, but this is the most perfect religion I've found. And if it weren't for this one, I would be an atheist. And fuck. I actually went and questioned it, and you know what? It's even worse than some others. And that's why I don't want to go back. And I can't believe what it's done to people I've met. I can't believe what it's done to my own family. I've lost my teenage years and my youth to this. That I can't get back. And I'm recovering now, and I'm so grateful to be doing that at age 20 and have all the life experience that I do now. But I resent, I hate what they've done. Last point. A belief that the leader is the exclusive means of knowing truth or giving validation. No more. That's exactly what they believe. They're the one true religion. Don't question it. It just comes from Jehovah, right? Bullshit. I love you all. Don't be afraid to question things.